be vulnerable to predators are um, sexual abuse, physical abuse, um, dysfunctional families, although I believe all families are dysfunctional, some even more so than others, which creates those voids that are within. Those are the vulnerabilities. Whether your father's not home, or he's never told you he loves you, or he never gives you that hug, that creates a void where you seek that attention outside of home. Um, there's even abuse increases those vulnerabilities in a sense where being with this trafficker, being with this pimp who protects me, who says he loves me, and yes, I'm physically abused, and yes, I'm sexually exploited, but it's a lot better than my stepfather coming into my bed every other night. Those vulnerabilities are some of the greatest when a lifestyle of sexual exploitation is better than what you have at home. From my experience, the critical point for a victim to leave the predator, to leave the trafficker, is when your will and desire to leave that lifestyle is greater than the risk that you have to take to walk away. Whether it means physical abuse, whether your family is threatened, that will and that desire to be beyond that point in your life is greater than the risk that you have to take. And even when leaving the lifestyle, drug abusers, it takes practice. It takes practice. It's not often that you just wake up one day and you're done with it. It takes time and time again of even going back into those relationships. Yes, even more than one time. And it's very similar to domestic violence relationships, where it's hard to understand why that wife won't leave her husband, beating after beating after beating. And there's a trauma bond, and there's an emotional bond, and there's the psychological bond is so strong that it affects, the decision making of whether to leave and whether to stay. The pivotal moment for me, because it takes tons of practice. I left on numerous occasions, and he followed, and I went back. And my son, he was the deciding factor for me when I had to make a decision for him. And it took something outside of me to give me the courage to just walk away. And at that point, it didn't matter. It didn't matter what happened. It didn't matter how it happened. And I literally had to fight my way out of that. Important thing I would want the general public to understand is that they're victims. They're victims. Quite often you'll hear the words, well, she's fast, and she's promiscuous, and she's this and she's that, and she's up to no good, and she'll never be anything. And the general public fails to realize that it started somewhere. She wasn't born that way. It started somewhere, and somewhere within that time before this point, she was a victim. She was a survivor before she even was sexually exploited. To not turn away. Are you okay? Is there anything I could do to help you? As well as, that's all I could
Interesting that most girls feel a very strong disconnect, because this is not just happening to poor girls. Okay? It's not. Oh no, this is not just happening. I'm telling you, I would have thought it was sort of poor, as you say, girls who are being sold by their moms. No, I've met 4 young girls who are actually attending Berkeley College who have been trafficked. who come from very, very nice, seemingly very stable family backgrounds, who got caught up in trafficking and just feeling a disconnect at home. Yeah. So I think it's very important that we keep that connection, we keep that communication with our youth. Sometimes our kids get to a certain age and we feel like, oh, they're doing that. You know, you have to keep that communication in. It is a must. You couldn't believe the stories that I've heard about girls who've been trafficked who will go to or asked by a girlfriend, hey, after school, we're going to go to this party. And they go to some far out in the suburbs and, you know, they're having a good time and they get drugged. And next thing you know, they wake up and they have these pictures of themselves, you know, in sexual acts that they don't remember. And the guy says, you come back here tomorrow or this picture is going to be all over the internet. And I know where your mother works. So you have girls who go to school, after school, 3 to 9. They're at this place with this guy that's holding, you know, blackmailing them with these pictures. How common is that? How, I mean, it sounds so. Doesn't it? Yes. But see, yes. The thing. And you're talking about here in the United States. We're talking about here in the United States. And it's, I'm trying to give you an understanding of the methods that are used, these invisible chains that are used to entrap these young boys, okay? And so there are different methods. And when we talk about slavery, people are so used to, you know, chains and a whip. Right. It's a whole different scene right now. And that's actually a true story. It was a whole ring of young girls from this particular high school that were being trafficked. And it took one girl to be brave enough to tell her mother. I'll tell you a very sad story. I'll tell you another one. 23-year-old gang member arrested for trafficking 4 14-year-olds. 2 that they're going to roll on them, basically. So he puts a hit out on 2 of them. One's missing. We can't find her. And so now if we can't provide protection for people who are willing to stand up against, you know, these traffickers, nobody's going to testify. Nobody's going to testify. So that's another issue that we have to deal with as well. Our girls, they need shelter and they need protection. You know, attending several different events as a young model, and was invited to a event at a billionaire's home during the daytime. And a couple weeks later, was contacted by his people for a modeling job opportunity in another country. And so I was this young, ambitious, excited, naive model, given this opportunity to go to another country for the modeling job, that it would be. Mine, researched everything. I was just really excited. But I was only given a one-way ticket, and that should have been a red flag for me. But I just didn't catch that at that time. And I ended up in a sex trafficking situation for about 3 weeks, where I wasn't able to leave. And so I'm here today at William Woods to share that story in its entirety. And whenever I share my story, it's very general due to just protecting me and my family, right, as far as not saying locations or names or anything like that. I got out of this situation actually by this billionaire's girlfriend, that I would stay with them, that I would stay with her, that I just needed to go home to take care of some business. And during my stay there, I had found out, and I was told by the billionaire that he actually purchased me as a Christmas gift for him and his girlfriend for their sexual pleasure.
And so throughout the time of being there and meeting this girlfriend and all of that, able to convince her that I would stay with them and I would stay with her and eventually get a ticket to go home in that way.
Your family was obviously very worried about you.
Okay, let me turn my mic down. Okay, so there you go. That was the last one. She was a model, and she thought that she was going to be presented with this grand opportunity to model. She got invited to a party. She went to the party, had a good time. Everything seemed okay. She got invited back to that place, and she found out that she was brought there. Once again, a billionaire had purchased her. Okay, so if you think this is not really going on, that was a great example. It is going on. You know, we don't have time to play games anymore. We have to be serious. We have to get these people out of our communities. We have to be vigilant. Okay, we cannot send our children. If your child wants a record deal, do it the old-fashioned way. Invest your dollars into it. Don't turn your child over to someone because they're famous and say, okay, well, yeah, you can be responsible for my 16, 17, or 18-year-old. Do not do that. These are your children. Value them.